Hi there, this is Brenda from Phydeaux Designs. Phydeaux is how you spell Phydeaux, and if you want to know how I came up with that crazy name, go over to my blog at phydeaux-designs.com, and on the About page I tell you all about the little kitty that is the origin for the name Phydeaux. But I'm here today to show you how to knit an I-cord edge. And I use I-cord edges a lot in my knitting patterns. I design knitting patterns and I hand dye yarn. And I love using I-cord edges for bulky, which this is bulky yarn and super bulky, which is this yarn, knitting patterns. You can see an I-cord edge right here. It makes a really nice rounded edge that doesn't have an obvious edge to it. So it makes sort of a tube that's just part of your knitting design. It creates a really, I think, sophisticated and smooth edge for your knits, which I think looks particularly nice with super bulky and bulky knits, and particularly when it's single ply. It just really looks contemporary and professional and smooth. Super easy to knit, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So let's move that aside. Super easy. So, excuse me while I slip my stitches back onto my needle. I'm using super bulky yarn, bulky yarn here. Brand new yarn from Phydeaux Designs, doesn't even have a name yet. And size 15 knitting needles, which is a good size needle for this particular width, thickness of yarn. And what I have here, the first couple of rows knit of my lattice cowl knitting pattern. And you can see beginning of an I-cord edge in the first 3 stitches and the last 3 stitches. You want it on both edges of your work. So I need to actually go to the back, to the wrong side, because I was just finishing this row and I decided it would be a good idea to show you how to do this. So last 3 stitches of the row, what we're going to do is slip a stitch with the yarn in the front. We're slipping with the yarn in the front and then bringing the yarn to the back of the work to knit the next stitch. And then we are slipping with the yarn in the front again. Now this is a little counterintuitive or confusing to people who are new to this particular kind of edge, because they think, oh my gosh, what do you do now? You slipped the last stitch of the row. What's going to happen with it when we turn the work? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap that yarn back to the back of the work because we slipped with it in the front, and then we're going to turn it. And then we're going to knit that first stitch so that yarn that we wrapped around it smoothly connects it and we don't have to worry about that stitch flopping off into the breeze. So we knit the first stitch, we're slipping the second stitch with the yarn in the front. So I knitted, I bring the yarn to the front, I slip, I wrap that yarn to the back, I bring it to the back and see how it sort of wraps around that stitch. I lost that stitch. And we knit. So we have a knit, a slip with the yarn in the front, and a knit. I'm going to knit one more stitch and then turn it. I kind of pull it a little bit so that you can see how that slip stitch recedes into the back of the work, back behind those 2 stitches, those 2 knit stitches, and starts creating that tube. So we're going to just purl this stitch. We have the last 3 stitches, slip with the yarn in the front, knit 1, bring the yarn to the front, slip with the yarn in the front, turn the work. Let's see how this is looking so far. It's starting to create a little bit of a tube. So you can see the 2 knit stitches. You can kind of see the slip stitch, but you can't really see the slip stitch down below because it's disappearing behind those knit stitches. And the first knit stitch, instead of just being obvious and flat on the front of the work, it's kind of turning. It's kind of turning on its side. And that's because of how we slip it on the wrong side. On the wrong side of the work, we're slipping this stitch, and doing that pulls it back a little bit. And when it pulls it back, it makes that stitch sort of, I don't know what the right word is, perpendicular on the edge. And then there's the knit stitch that we do on the back. So it creates this tube of knitting. which is what I-cord is. It's a tube of knitting. Okay, so we're back on the right side. We're going to knit, bring the yarn to the front, do it more smoothly than I'm doing, slip, bring the yarn to the back, knit, and then we'll just knit one stitch. Pretty cool. Now you can really see it. You'll just keep doing that as you work on your pattern. The last 3 stitches and the first 3 stitches, you do the same exact thing. On the right side of the work, you knit, you slip with one in the back, you slip with the yarn in the front, which you can kind of see back there when I pull it apart. This is finished and blocked and it completely disappears. That's the knit, that's that first knit. In between those is a slip with the yarn in the front, and then there's the knit. And you notice that these are a little bit longer than the stitches in the body. So there's a knit, 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 knit. This knit is taking about 2 of those knit stitches, and that's because we're slipping it on the wrong side. So each of these knit stitches is really equal to two rows. It's 2 stitches worth of knitting. And let's go over here to the other edge, because we do this. I showed you doing this on the right side of your work, but you're doing the same exact thing at the back of your work. You're knitting, you're slipping with the yarn in the front, you're knitting, and then you flip your work, and you are slipping with the yarn in the front, knitting, slipping with the yarn in the front. When you're all done and blocked, you can't even see those slips. They completely disappear. This second knit stitch, when you're looking at the front, is on the outside edge. It creates a really smooth tube. So that is how you knit an I-cord edge. Super easy once you get to practice it a few times, and I hope that this was helpful for you. Again, I use this in quite a few of my knitting patterns, which you can find on my website at Phydeaux-Designs.com, Phydeaux-Designs.com. And if you liked this, hit like. You might even subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be adding more videos about the knit stitches and techniques that I use. And head over to my blog, join the mailing list. You'll see a subscription box in the top right corner, and if you join, you get 20% off your first order at shop.phydeauxdesigns.com. Thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.